Subscribe to my YouTube channel for deeply emotional, romantic, and mature stories that echo through your heart. Don't forget to like, share, and comment to support meaningful storytelling. The coffee shop was supposed to be her sanctuary. Emma had chosen the corner table by the window specifically because it faced away from the door, away from the possibility of unwanted encounters. She needed this time alone, needed the gentle hum of conversation and the smell of fresh coffee to quiet the storm that had been raging in her heart for weeks. But sanctuaries, she was about to learn, have a way of becoming the very places where fate decides to intervene. She was reaching for her cup when it happened, a gentle collision. As someone passed behind her chair, the stranger's hand brushed her shoulder as he steadied himself, and Emma felt something she couldn't name, something that made her breath catch in her throat. It was as if every nerve ending in her body had suddenly awakened from a long sleep. "I'm so sorry," came a voice that seemed to resonate somewhere deep in her chest. "I didn't see you there." Emma turned, and her world tilted on its axis. The man standing before her had dark hair that caught the afternoon light, eyes the color of storm clouds, and a face that looked like it had been carved from her most secret dreams. But it wasn't his beauty that made her hands tremble. It was the inexplicable feeling that she had been waiting for this moment her entire life. "It's okay," she managed to whisper, though nothing about this felt okay. Nothing about this felt normal. He extended his hand. "I'm David." When their fingers touched, Emma felt electricity shoot through her entire being. Not the playful spark of attraction she'd felt with other men, but something deeper, more ancient. Something that whispered of recognition, of souls that had been searching for each other across time and space. "Emma," she breathed, unable to look away from his eyes. David's grip lingered longer than politeness dictated, and she could see in his expression that he felt it too, this impossible connection, this sense of coming home to a place he'd never been. "Have we double quotes," he started, then stopped, shaking his head. "This is going to sound crazy, but have we met before?" Emma's heart hammered against her ribs. She had been wondering the same thing, searching through her memories for any trace of this man who felt so familiar it almost hurt. "I don't think so. I would have remembered." But even as she said it, she knew it wasn't entirely true. She would have remembered meeting him, yes, but the feeling of knowing him went deeper than memory. It was as if her soul recognized something in him that her mind couldn't quite grasp. David gestured to the empty chair across from her. "May I?" She nodded, not trusting her voice. As he settled into the chair, Emma noticed the way he moved, graceful, deliberate, like a dancer who had learned to make every gesture count. There was something achingly familiar about it, about the way he ran his fingers through his hair, the way he tilted his head when he looked at her. "You're going to think I'm insane," David said, his voice low and uncertain. "But I feel like I've been looking for you my entire life." The words hit Emma like a physical blow. She set down her coffee cup with shaking hands, afraid she might drop it. "That's impossible. I know it is. But Emma... He leaned forward, and she caught the scent of his cologne cedar and something else, something that made her want to close her eyes and breathe deeply. "When I touched your shoulder, it was like coming home." She stared at him, her rational mind warring with something deeper, something that recognized the truth in his words. "This doesn't make sense." "No, it doesn't." David's smile was sad and beautiful, but that doesn't make it any less real, does it? Emma found herself leaning forward, drawn by an invisible thread. "What do you do? For work, I mean." She needed to ground this conversation in reality, to find some logical explanation for what was happening. "I'm a musician. I play piano, mostly. I compose." He paused, studying her face. "What about you?" I'm a teacher. Elementary school. She watched for any flicker of recognition, any sign that their paths might have crossed in some mundane way. But there was nothing, just that persistent sense of familiarity that had no logical source. Where did you grow up? David asked, and Emma could hear the hope in his voice. The same hope that was blooming in her own chest. Portland. You? Chicago. His face fell slightly. Different schools. Different cities. No mutual friends that I can think of. They sat in silence for a moment, both grappling with the impossibility of what they were experiencing. Emma studied his hands as they rested on the table-long fingers, a small scar on his left thumb, the way they moved when he gestured. Everything about him seemed to echo in places she didn't know existed. Tell me about your music, she said softly. David's eyes lit up. I write mostly love songs. The kind that make people cry in the best way. I've been trying to capture this feeling I've had for years, like I'm missing something, someone. Like there's a piece of my heart that's been waiting somewhere else. Emma's breath caught. What kind of feeling? Longing, I guess. But not for anything specific. Just ... longing. Like there's someone out there who would understand the music. I hear in my head, who would know why I play the way I do. He looked directly at her. Does that sound ridiculous? No, Emma whispered. It sounds like the story I've been trying to write for 10 years. You write. In my spare time. Always the same story. Though I can never seem to get it right. It's about two people who find each other against all odds. Who recognize something in each other that they can't name. She felt heat rise in her cheeks. I always thought it was just wishful thinking. David reached across the table, and his fingers found hers. The touch sent shockwaves through her entire being. What if it wasn't wishful thinking? What if it was a memory? A memory of what? I don't know. But Emma, I've been dreaming about you. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Emma felt her world shift again, reality bending around this impossible truth. What do you mean? For as long as I can remember, I've had this recurring dream. There's a woman, she's always just out of focus. But I know her voice. I know the way she laughs, the way she moves. I wake up feeling like I've lost something. Precious. He squeezed her fingers gently. Her voice sounds exactly like yours. Emma's heart stopped. What does she look like in your dreams? I never see her clearly. But she has long dark hair, and she wears a silver bracelet on her left wrist. Something with a small charm. Emma's free hand flew to her wrist, where a delicate silver bracelet caught the light. The tiny star charm her grandmother had given her seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat. David's eyes widened. My God, this isn't possible, Emma breathed. But she was staring at the bracelet too, remembering her own dreams of a man with storm cloud eyes and gentle hands, a man who played piano while she wrote stories in a room filled with golden light. What do you remember about your dreams? David asked quietly. Emma closed her eyes, letting the memories wash over her. There's a room. It's always the same room. There are windows everywhere, and the light is perfect for writing. And there's music, the most beautiful piano music I've ever heard. Sometimes I can see his hands on the keys, but never his face. But I know ... She opened her eyes and looked at David. I know he's playing for me. The room has a fireplace, David said, his voice barely above a whisper, and bookshelves on every wall. And there's a desk by the window where you sit and write. Sometimes you stop and listen to the music, and you smile like you're hearing a secret. They stared at each other, both shaken by the impossible accuracy of his description. Emma felt tears prick her eyes. How is this happening? She whispered. I don't know. But Emma, I need to tell you something else. David's grip on her hand tightened. 3 months ago, I started having a different dream. In this one, I lose you. I'm searching everywhere, but I can't find you. I wake up feeling like my heart is breaking. Emma's tears spilled over. I've been having the same dream. That's why I've been so sad lately. I keep feeling like I'm missing something, someone, but I didn't know what. And then today, Today I found you, Emma finished. Or you found me. They sat in silence, hands clasped across the small table, both trying to process the magnitude of what was happening. Around them, the coffee shop continued its gentle hum of normalcy, but Emma felt like she was existing in a completely different realm. I need to ask you something, David said finally, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Emma nodded, though she wasn't sure she was ready for whatever he was about to say. When I touched your shoulder, when we shook hands, what did you feel? She took a shaky breath. Like I was remembering something I'd forgotten. Like every cell in my body was saying, finally. Like I could spend forever trying to explain it, and never come close to capturing what it actually was. That's exactly what I felt. David's thumb traced circles on her palm. Emma, I know this. It's crazy, but I think we've been connected somehow. Maybe in dreams, maybe in some other way, but connected. What does that mean for us? For this? She gestured between them. I don't know. But I do know that I can't walk away from you. Not now that I've found you. Emma felt something crack open in her chest, a door that had been locked for so long. She'd forgotten it existed. I don't want you to walk away. Then don't let me. David's voice was rough with emotion. I know we just met. I know this is insane. But Emma... I think I've been falling in love with you in my dreams for years. And now that you're here, now that you're real, I'm terrified, Emma admitted. This doesn't happen to people like me. I teach second grade and read romance novels and live a perfectly ordinary life. I don't have mystical connections with mysterious strangers. What if you do, though? What if this is exactly what's supposed to happen? Emma looked into his eyes and saw her own wonder reflected there, along with something else, a deep, abiding tenderness that made her feel like she was the most precious thing in the world. I have to go, she said suddenly, panic rising in her chest. This is too much, too fast. I need time to think. She started to pull her hand away, but David held on gently. Wait, please. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small piece of paper. My number. You don't have to use it if you don't want to. But Emma, if you walk away now, I'm afraid I'll spend the rest of my life wondering what could have been. Emma took the paper, her fingers trembling. What if we're both just lonely people who want this to mean something it doesn't? Then we'll figure that out together. David's smile was heartbreakingly hopeful. But what if we're not? What if this is exactly what it feels like? Emma stood up, clutching the paper. I need time. I understand. But Emma? She turned back to him. I'll be dreaming about you tonight. The same dreams I've been having for years. The only difference is that now I know your name. She fled the coffee shop, her heart pounding, the piece of paper burning in her palm. But as she reached her car, she realized she was crying not from fear, but from a joy so profound it terrified her. That night, Emma lay in bed staring at David's number, her phone in one hand, her grandmother's bracelet in the other. She thought about the dreams, about the impossible recognition she'd felt, about the way her entire body had seemed to come alive at his touch thought at 11:47 p.m. She finally typed a message. I'm dreaming about you too. His response came immediately. I was hoping you would text. I've been sitting at my piano, trying to compose the song I heard in my head when I looked at you today. What does it sound like? Like coming home? Like all my questions finally have answers. Emma smiled through her tears. I'm scared. So am I. But I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you. She thought about that for a long moment, turning the words over in her mind. Will you play for me sometime? The song you're writing? I'll play for you whenever you want. Forever. If you'll let me. David? Yes? I think I've been waiting for you my entire life. I know I've been waiting for you. Emma closed her eyes, and for the first time in months, she felt peaceful. Good night, David. Good night, Emma. Sweet dreams. She drifted off to sleep with her phone still in her hand, and she dreamed of the room with the golden light, the bookshelves, the fireplace. But this time, when she looked up from her writing, she could see David's face clearly as he played. And when he looked at her, she saw love there, not new love, but the kind that had been growing in secret places for years, waiting for the right moment to bloom. The next morning, Emma woke to a text from David. I wrote the song. Would you like to hear it? She stared at the message, her heart racing. This was it, the moment when she would have to decide whether to step into this impossible love story or retreat to the safety of her ordinary life. She thought about the dreams, about the way David's touch had felt like a homecoming, about the music she'd been hearing in her head all these years. She thought about her grandmother's bracelet, and the way David had described it perfectly, about the longing that had been living in her chest for as long as she could remember. Yes, she typed. I'd love to hear it. An hour later, Emma stood outside a small music studio downtown, her hands shaking as she knocked on the door. When David opened it, the sight of him took her breath away all over again. He was wearing a simple black t-shirt and jeans, but he looked like he'd stepped out of her dreams. Hi, he said softly, hi. He led her inside to a room with a beautiful, grand piano and large windows that let in streams of golden light. Emma gasped. This is it, she whispered. This is the room from my dreams. David nodded, his eyes bright with unshed tears. I know. I rented this studio 3 years ago because it felt like home, but I never knew why. Now I do. He sat down at the piano, and Emma settled into a chair nearby. When he placed his hands on the keys, Emma felt a shiver of recognition. These were the hands she'd been seeing in her dreams, the hands that had been playing for her across impossible distances. This is for you, David said. It's called Finally Found. The first notes filled the room, and Emma's heart stopped. The melody was achingly beautiful, full of longing and hope, and a love so deep it seemed to echo from another lifetime. It was the music she'd been hearing in her dreams, the music that had been calling to her for years. As David played, Emma closed her eyes and let the sound wash over her. She felt tears streaming down her face, but she didn't care. This was the song her soul had been waiting to hear, played by the man her heart had been searching for. When the last note faded, they sat in silence for a long moment. Finally, David spoke. I've been working on it for 3 years, but I could never get it right. Last night, after I met you, I sat down at the piano, and it just flowed out of me, like it had been waiting for you to exist before it could be born. Emma wiped her eyes. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. Will you come here? David asked softly. To the piano. Emma rose and walked to him on unsteady legs. David scooted over on the bench, making room for her. When she sat down beside him, their thighs touching, Emma felt that same electric connection she'd experienced in the coffee shop. Put your hands on the keys, David murmured. Like this. He covered her hands with his, and Emma felt complete for the first time in her life. Together, they played the opening notes of the song, and Emma marveled at how natural it felt. How Perfectly, their hands moved together. "I've never played piano before," she whispered. "You have in my dreams," David said. "We've played together 1,000 times." Emma turned to look at him and found his face only inches from hers. She could see the gold flecks in his storm cloud eyes, could feel his breath on her skin. The air between them crackled with possibility. "David," she breathed. "Tell me you feel it too," he whispered. "Tell me I'm not going crazy. I feel it. I feel everything." Emma's voice was barely audible. "I feel like I've loved you forever. And that terrifies me because I don't understand how that's possible. Maybe we don't need to understand it. Maybe. We just need to trust it." David's hand came up to cup her face, and Emma leaned into his touch. It felt like the most natural thing in the world, like a gesture they'd shared countless times before. "I want to kiss you," David said quietly. "I've wanted to kiss you since the moment I saw you. But I also feel like I've been wanting to kiss you for years." Emma's heart raced. "Then kiss me." When their lips met, Emma felt the world explode around. This wasn't a first kiss, it was a reunion, a homecoming, a recognition so profound it shook her to her core. David's lips were soft and warm and perfectly familiar, moving against hers with a tenderness that made her soul sing. When they finally broke apart, Emma was crying again. "I remember," she whispered against his lips. "I don't know how or why. But I remember this. I remember you." David rested his forehead against hers. "I remember too. It's impossible, but I remember." They held each other in the golden light of the studio, both overwhelmed by the magnitude of what was happening. Emma felt like she was standing at the edge of a cliff, about to jump into something vast and unknown and beautiful. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now we figure it out together," David said. "One day at a time, one moment at a time. We learn each other all over again, even though it feels like we already know everything." Emma smiled through her tears. "I want to write about this. About us. About whatever this is. And I want to write music for your words. I want to spend the rest of my life creating beautiful things with you." "The rest of your life?" Emma pulled back to look at him. David's smile was soft and sure. "Emma, I know this is crazy. I know we just met yesterday. But I also know that I've been waiting for you my entire life. And now that I've found you, I'm never letting you go. If you'll have me." Emma thought about her ordinary life, her safe routines, her carefully constructed walls. Then she thought about the dreams, the music, the way David's touch made her feel like she was finally, truly alive. "Yes," she whispered. "I'll have you. Forever, if you'll have me." "Forever," David agreed, and sealed the promise with another kiss that tasted like coming home. 6 months later, Emma stood in the same studio, wearing a simple white dress and holding a bouquet of wildflowers. David sat at the piano, playing the song he'd written for her, the song that had somehow brought them together across impossible distances. As she walked toward him, Emma smiled at the small gathering of friends and family who had come to witness their wedding. She caught her sister's eye and saw tears of joy there, along with a wondering shake of her head. Everyone had been skeptical at first. How could two people fall so deeply in love so quickly? But as the months had passed, as Emma and David had learned each other's rhythms and quirks and fears, everyone had seen the truth. This wasn't a whirlwind romance or a case of temporary insanity. This was two souls who had found each other against all odds. Two people who fit together like pieces of a puzzle that had been scattered across time and space. Emma had moved into David's apartment, and they'd filled it with music and books and laughter. She'd started writing again, not the same stories she'd been trying to tell for years, but new stories, better stories, stories that flowed from her like music. And David had composed an entire album inspired by their love. Songs that spoke of mystery and magic and the inexplicable connections that bind hearts together. They still dreamed of each other, but now their dreams were of the future of children. With storm-cloud eyes and gentle hands, of growing old together in a house filled with music and stories, of a love that would somehow transcend even death. When Emma reached David, he stood and took her hands, his eyes bright with tears. "Ready?" he whispered. "I've been ready for years," Emma replied. "I just didn't know it until I found you." As they spoke their vows, Emma felt the presence of something greater than themselves. Call it fate. Call it destiny. Call it the mysterious forces that sometimes conspire to bring two hearts together. Whatever it was, she was grateful for it. Grateful for the impossible love that had bloomed from a single touch in a coffee shop. When David played their song during the reception, Emma closed her eyes and let the music wash over her. She thought about the dreams that had brought them together, the inexplicable recognition, the way their souls had called to each other across impossible distances. She still didn't understand how it had happened. She might never understand. But she knew, with absolute certainty, that some loves are too powerful to be contained by the boundaries of ordinary life. Some connections run deeper than memory, stronger than logic, more enduring than time itself. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, you find the person who makes you believe in magic again. Later that night, as Emma and David lay in bed in their new apartment, she traced patterns on his chest with her finger. "David? Do you think we'll always remember this? The way it felt when we first found each other?" David's arms tightened around her. "I think we'll remember it forever. And I think we'll keep finding each other, again and again, in all the ways that matter." Emma smiled and closed her eyes. As she drifted off to sleep, she could swear she heard the faint sound of piano music in the distance. Not from David, who was sleeping peacefully beside her, but from somewhere else. Somewhere beyond the boundaries of dreams and waking life. It was the sound of love itself, playing the eternal song of two souls who had found their way home to each other. No matter how far they'd had to travel, no matter how impossible the journey had seemed. And in her dreams that night, Emma danced to that music in a room filled with golden light, held in the arms of the man she'd been waiting for all her life. Even before she knew she was waiting at all. The end. Thank you for listening to this story from Tales Beneath. If it touched your heart, please subscribe, like, and share to help us continue bringing you deeply emotional and romantic stories. What did you think of Emma and David's impossible love story? Let us know in the comments below.